I am Dennis, and I'm a student ambassador with the Office of Admissions, and I'm here with Isabella. And we're just gonna have Isabella talk a little bit about her experience at Iliff. Isabella, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yes, thank you, Dennis. My name is Isabella Rosales. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I grew up in a small town in northeastern Iowa. My father is a Mexican immigrant, and my mom is of European, Scandinavian descent. So I have this lovely hybrid identity that really fuels my direction in my studies. I graduated from the Social Justice and Ethics master's program at Iliff in 2020. And I chose that program because for me, it was the most helpful in terms of wanting to engage my values that were like deeply oriented towards social justice issues, specifically pertaining to Latinx identity, decolonization, and liberation theology. And so the social justice and ethics program really allowed me to explore those values and to then integrate those into praxis through the internship program and the Office of Identity Information, and then also through establishing really life-changing mentorships. I was able to connect with professors with affinity identities that then really propelled me along my journey into the PhD, which is what I'm doing right now. I am now in the joint doctoral program, also pursuing a certificate in Latinx studies. And I would not be here without the support and mentorship of the connections I made in my master's program. And my hope is to continue integrating my social justice oriented values into my theological practice. And this program really enables me to do that. And so that's why I'm here. And I'm just really grateful.
Yeah. And when you were at Iliff in your master's program, were you how did you participate in taking classes? Is it the hybrid or in person?
Oh, yeah. The social justice and ethics program was a residential program at the time, only a residential program. So I moved from Iowa to Colorado. And I even had the opportunity to live on campus for a while, which was really formative in terms of how I connected with the Iliff community. I also worked at the front desk, which also really enabled connection with the community. I just sought out opportunities to connect with staff, with faculty, and with other students as often as I could. But that was absolutely because I lived on campus and it was so close physically that I was able to do that. So for me, being in physical connection really that enabled my now very I think lifelong connection with Iliff. But I have heard from the other end of the journey students that have such a strong community as well. It's just as strong. It's just different.
And why you decided Iliff instead of, I guess, any other theological?
Iliff does have a reputation of being one of the most progressive theological seminaries in the country. So obviously I took that into consideration. I also was looking at the faculty and the staff. And because Iliff does prioritize hiring people from different social locations other than white dominant social location, it was really indicative to me of the kind of affinity values that I had when I was able to see a few professors with Spanish names. That was very important to me. And then in looking them up and seeing the kind of work that they do, I'm referencing Dr. De La Torre. I thought, okay, I want to do post-colonial ethics too. This is something I want to do. I want to study with this person. I also discovered Dr. Ting Tinker, in my undergrad and saw that he taught at Iliff. And so similarly, I thought, okay, I want to do decolonization and I want to do Indigenous identity worldview work. So, I mean, looking into the faculty really helped to solidify my decision of like, what kind of mentorship do I want? And that's, I mean, those are the two figures that really brought me to Iliff and then kept me there.
Right. And do you think the Master of Social Justice and Ethics program prepared you well as you transition from a master's level into a PhD level with the joint PhD program?
Absolutely. And I think that my experience is different because I am going straight from one to the other without like a break in between. So it did feel very natural for me. And I also had the experience with several of the professors in my master's that I now have. So it's a little bit different for me. It was a much more natural transition. But I do think that there are, I mean, Dr. De La Torre specifically is a really helpful resource for anyone considering a PhD. He also teaches professional development courses. And so he's a very useful resource in terms of navigating and discerning if the PhD route is for you. And I'm sure there are other professors as well who would be more than like happy to sit down with students who are interested in a PhD, because there is that crossover of professors who teach both master's level students and PhD level students. And so I think that because of that crossover in that community, there is such great mentorship opportunities and just like a depth of resources within our faculty and staff. So yeah, I highly recommend, if you're thinking about getting a PhD, email your favorite professor, the one you have a connection with, and sit down with them and talk about, because they've gone through that process as well.
Is there anything you want to share, like any final thoughts on folks who might be considering Iliff and just anything you think that might be helpful in them making that decision to join Iliff instead of
Yeah, I think that if your vocation or orientation is pulling you towards Iliff, definitely visit, definitely engage with current students, current faculty, or current staff. And I think that it was really helpful for me, the transparency that Iliff promotes, that while yes, this is one of the most progressive theological seminaries in the country, and maybe a space where we can do really earth-shaking theological work that mainstream theological seminaries might not allow, that there are still those social location barriers. There's still inherent white supremacy. There's still racism. There's still gender biases happening. And Iliff is aware of those. Iliff talks about those. I could sit down with President Wolf and have a conversation about these inherent and embedded systems, and he would take me seriously. So I think that is something that is really unique about the Iliff experience, that every individual voice is held and taken into consideration. And there are faculty and there are staff who want to listen and want to make the changes, and the changes are happening, but that doesn't mean that it's perfect. And I think Iliff is aware of that. I believe Iliff is aware of that. And I've had experiences with the people who hold those dominant social location identifiers that show a desire for consciousness raising, for social movement progression. And so that's why I think Iliff is unique.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Isabella, for sharing. Yeah. And we look forward to hearing more from you as you go along in your academic journey.
I'm always happy to support Iliff in any way.
Yeah, and as a current student in the Master of Divinity program, I can resonate with a lot of what you've said. Because I've learned, like, I've moved from New York to Denver to be closer to Iliff, and I've had some of those interactions where I work at the front desk some days and I'm like running into professors and just having conversations with them. And, and I really, I think that is unique for those who can make that move to
Yes.
Denver.
Yep.
But I think we have Zoom as well. So
yes, we
you don't
do.
have to, you could always schedule something with professors. So,
Absolutely. And if anything, the pandemic has taught me as well that our professors are an email or a text away generally, and they want to make time for us. And even if it's outside of the classroom, like an issue pertaining to outside of the classroom, they want to make time for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.